Hey mi gente, it's Julie and Steve. You already know my name, but if you are new here, hey! Today we're going to be talking about black and biracial black people again. Yes, today's topic is going to be part 2 of the preferences series, and we're going to be focusing mainly on interracial relationships within black people, interracially dating. Obviously, this includes biracial black people too. And in this portion of the video, we're going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of interracial relationships, specifically the ugly. And before I go any further, I do want to say thank you so much to everyone who supported part 1 of the video series. I do appreciate all your genuine feedback, especially the positive ones, because there were a few negative ones which were related to what I'm talking about within part 2 of the series, which is about interracial relationships within black people interracially dating, or biracial black people interracially dating. The second thing I want to talk about is I'm not trying to upset anyone, and if you're not able to tolerate this specific type of topic, please leave this video right now, because we're gonna get into it and I'm not going to censor myself. So this is a warning right here, right now. I'm not censoring myself. It's going to be very unfiltered. Of course, I have a script, but I'm going to say what I gotta say. And if you cannot handle it, leave. Okay, mi gente. Okay, mi gente. Okay. We're going to start now. Author Daniel Williams of Let's Talk About Racial Dating Preferences in Outdoor Spaces made interesting points of people who intentionally date outside of their race. She states, "Here are 11 scenarios that offer clues that you may need to rethink your racial dating preferences. If your preferences exclude entire groups of non-white people who, what a coincidence, are also marginalized and dehumanized by society, you need to stop and reflect. Love is love, but colorism is also colorism. Internalized racism is internalized racism, and anti-blackness is anti-blackness. Let's do better in 2022. Danielle's absolutely right. I get where she's coming from with her statement. This is where I gotta critique her. Her phrase of love is love. Whenever people say that, it bothers me, because first off, you basically trying to sugarcoat your words so that way you do not sound like you're against interracial dating, or if you're against being a horrible person, or stuff in between those lines, to just state your opinion. Of course, if it's bigoted, that's a different story. But in this situation, Danielle was not trying to be bigoted. She was just saying a fact. And I get it. Love is love, air quotes. But when it comes to racism, which, by the way, we live in a racist society, especially if you're from the United States of America, love is not love. Because if love is love, then why are people in interracial relationships and they experience rapid racism from their partner or their partner's family, immediate family, by the way? We're not talking about people like further away cousins, a great grandmother or a great grandmother, or someone who is a cousin but they're not too close, not too far. We're talking about people that are like the mother, the father, the uncle, the aunt, the brother, the sister, and so on. And then we have to remember that this also includes partners, close friends who happen to be racist as well. But we're not even going to talk about that part, because that's going to get even more messy. But I do get concerned when people try to turn a blind eye when it comes to toxic traits within the interracial relationship, and then they have mixed race children. I'm telling you, I'm gonna go in a bit more detail in the video, but I just want to give like a glimpse, just a bit. Okay, I'm going to read 5 examples of Dale's piece where she was making points about certain interracial relationships and the standards, like of why certain people would end up in an interracial relationship. Number 11. White and at least 6 feet tall. Number 10. Hashtag Team Swerve. Number 9. For you to date a black American. Number 8. Brown girls are for keeping your parents happy. Number 7. Beno Mano. I've heard most of these excuses online and in reality when it comes to people and their dating preferences. I've heard this especially in black and biracial black spaces. Now we're going to be hearing from 2 of my guests, my friends Parker and Victoria.
From the examples that I've seen and what I've heard, and also like my personal encounters, a lot of times people date outside of their race. First and foremost, I think it just be strictly because of love and connection. Like you just genuinely have a connection with somebody, and race isn't really in the picture. It's a person and a person getting to know one another. The societal views which categorizes are out the window. It's just person to person. I know that to be a reason why like people would date outside their race. Just the same way how they decide on who they want to date within their race. I know that another reason may be because of traumas or because of experiences with relationships inside of your culture or your race. Maybe I don't want to say bitterness, but definitely a lot of like trauma or pain or hardships faced by people in the relationships where they date people that look just like them. And when they date outside of their race, they feel a sense of maybe just love or security that they didn't feel when they dated inside of their culture. Another reason from what I've seen a lot too also is because of their interactions with their parents. So if you like, it's almost like an internal battle in that regard. Because if the people inside your house that look like you treat you away, you can be led to look outside of that. And oftentimes when people do, if they have like a mom or a dad who's like really hard on them and just put this image into their mind that all women or all men that look like this they act like that.
Yeah.
Usually when you date outside of that, you'll find yourself seeing differences. And so you'll cling on to that. So it's more of a comfort thing.
I don't have confidence dating black men because I feel rejected or hated. I feel hated by black men. I feel like they don't appreciate an educated black woman. I feel like they don't appreciate a good black woman. The last black man that I dated, I mean, here and there I would give my number,
Okay.
but there was and I don't discriminate against them. It's not like I don't like them. I just don't feel accepted by them. There was this one, he was from Eritrea.
Oh, wow.
These East African guys, they only date their own kind. He was really cute. And I was just like, ooh, okay, let me learn your language. Okay. But then like, he just like stopped talking to me. Like he ghosted me and he was like, I just want to date Eritrean girls.
Wow.
And so East Africans, they have their own thing going on with their own insular, like internal relations.
Oh yeah, their culture, yeah.
Their culture. I guess they want to preserve their culture, but that doesn't mean like
exclude other black people.
Exclude other black people. Like, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And so that was the last black guy I dated. And I met a new friend on Instagram. He's a producer. And I produce music too. And so he was giving me advice and stuff. And we started talking about social problems in the Black community. And he was talking about how he's Puerto Rican, but he's like he looks like a Dominican because he's mixed. You know, he's part black, part mestizo, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he has cousins that are black. He has cousins that are darker. And so he told me that not one of them dates a black woman. Not one of them has ever dated not even a black Puerto Rican woman.
What?
Yeah. And so all of his cousins' children are mixed, and all of like their moms who were black Puerto Rican, they ended up having children with African American men.
Yeah.
Okay. And then their children came out dark, but their children ended up dating and marrying and procreating with mestiza women.
Wow.
All of them. None of them had a black woman.
That's concerning.
That
Very
is
concerning. Because now at that point, you can tell it's intentional. And it's kind of sad, especially because me and Victoria, we both Afro Latinos. So when you're hearing people in your own cultural background that are similar to yours doing this, it is very sad and it is concerning because it's like now you have mixed race children with people who are you may never know, maybe they anti-black, maybe people in their family are anti-black that they close to. Are the children that are men, specifically men, having kids with only non-black women and dating them? Because you even said they only dating non-black women. They never date a black woman before. That's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, never. And they would never.
That's weird. Very weird.
Is it anti-black or is it anti-black woman?
I want to talk a bit about R.K. Russell and his article titled The In-Between Black Love and Interracial Dating. In this article, R.K. Russell talked a bit about what is black love to him and his upbringing of falling in love with a black woman, and then he ends up around his 20s becoming bisexual, and he's with a white man. And he goes into a bit more details as to why he's with a white man or why he believes black love is like a intersection with being in an interracial relationship, which we're going to be debunking that in a few minutes. But I just want to give you guys a glimpse of like exactly what he was talking about in the article. Right now I'm going to read 3 parts of the article, and we're going to go from impressed to unimpressed. Specifically in the American black community, we fight daily for what our country calls our natural right to life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. Through the union of black couples, we fight against the legacy of trauma that scarred our ancestors' backs, leaving marks that still remain on our hearts and on our families. As phenomenal as that definition of black love is, I now find it incomplete. As I know it now, black love is also about self-love, seeing yourself, your heritage, culture, skin color, and hair texture on and within another, and seeing it as beautiful. This is a solid definition of what is black love. Now, part 2. Naively, I believed that the community of people who were both black and queer would embrace me even if no one else would. Quickly, I discovered that although the black community and the queer community seemed at odds with each other most of the time, they apparently agreed on one principle: interracial dating is wrong. Love never seemed like a good enough answer to questions like, if he's bisexual, why didn't he choose to be with a woman? Why couldn't he at least find another black man to date? What's so special about this white boy? Having growing up in a predominantly white neighborhood, I was used to feeling alienated from the Black community for not being Black enough or talking or dressing too white. I was used to color being a topic of discussion. Still, I was unaware that the queer community could be just as color struck. My problem with his response is that he brings up living in a predominantly white area, and then he talks about how he's isolated from the Black community within said area, state. I'm not really sure because he wasn't that specific about his upbringing. He just said that he grew up in a predominantly white area. My question is, what does this have to do with him being with a white man? What does this have to do with the allegations of him self-hating? What do these two things have to do with these two specific topics? That's my problem. I wanted him to go a bit more in detail before I just automatically assume like what I'm assuming right now. I wish he went in a bit more detail, but I get it. I'm assuming he didn't want to make the piece too long, even though the piece was already long, and I feel like there was an opportunity that he missed to go into more details on certain things like this. R.K. Wester states, Black love, at its base, teaches us to love ourselves completely. That's a lesson that can benefit every couple. It's something we can all believe in and deserves to be celebrated, whether we are in an interracial relationship or not. I am not a Black American, but I am Black, specifically an Afro-Honduran. So I'm going to say what needs to be said. Black love is what it is. Black love. This has nothing to do with interracial dating. I'm just going to say how it is. Black love is what it sounds like. Black love. Black people in love and embracing all of their Blackness whilst they build their families up. Their Black families. You cannot flip and reverse a phrase to fit your interracial relationship. You chose to be in an interracial relationship, so now you have to find something that fits you and your partner who happens to be of a different race. You can use the term Black love as a reference to maybe talk about a bit about like your interracial relationship, but do not use it to desensitize the phrase. The phrase has a meaning and it has a history within the United States, especially within the United States. So me reading this, I was like, what am I reading? But I do have to remember that's his point of view, even though it's doesn't make sense. And then I'd be thinking like, if a Black woman was to say this about their interracial relationship, would it be as much well praised as R.K. Russell, or would they be criticized just for saying something like this that doesn't make sense? I want to talk a bit about K. Russell and M. Wilson's book titled Divided Sisters, Bridging the Gap Between Black Women and White Women. This part of the article made me realize the standards of interracial dating were in hell back in the days. In hell. In addition to the hostile reactions of strangers, a lesbian woman who dates interracially may have to fend off the hostilities of her partner's family. Amy, a white lesbian, talks about what happened the one time her Black lover, Nancy, took Amy home to meet the parents. It was clear that Nancy's parents did not like me, but it was hard to tell what bothered them more. That their daughter was gay. I was the first woman that she had brought home and came out with to her parents, or that she was with someone white. All I know is that being in her parents' home was one of the most uncomfortable experiences of my life. While Nancy's parents were fucked up, Amy needs to raise her standards. You were going this bad for an interracial relationship and feeling uncomfortable at that as a white woman.
Yeah, I have to be very careful with dating outside of my race. I know that because I know I run the risk of being fetishized, and I have been before. In 2011, there was this Turkish man. He was the reason why I learned Turkish in the first place. Like, he couldn't speak English.
Wow.
And so I was in college. I was at the University of Houston. They were offering an elective of Turkish. I took it. I made an A, and I ended up like being able to communicate with him. I did all that only to be like cheated on. You know, he was trying to talk to my best friend who was Turkish American. That was after me and him had our rendezvous and our dates, and I taught him English. You know, he would say things like, "You're not black, you're chocolate."
Wow.
So he fetishized me, used me, and just like tried to get with my best friend. She didn't respond. She was a good friend. So that was one example. But I have an example. I will never do this again. I have trauma with a Chicano man. So he was an ex from college, and he was like one of the worst people I've ever known. And I won't give details on how I ended up there, but I ended up in his family's house one summer in 2019, and they treated me like shit. They made me clean the house. Like, they made me wash piles of dishes. And I was wondering to myself, why am I even here? Like, why am I even here? Why am I trying to earn somebody's love like this? It was awful. And then like one time, like things just went really south. Things went really south. And when things blew up in the breakup, like, he called me a monkey.
Wow.
Yeah. He said Jesus would only call you a monkey. Yeah.
Wow.
And his sister called me a gorilla. They took all my property from his room, dumped it in the backyard, and like stole from it. And I had to escape. I called the police, and the police came, and I left and stuff like that. But like it was very traumatic. I don't think I've ever told anyone, actually. But these were Mexican Americans, and they are very racist against Blacks. Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
It's not the first time I was called a monkey by a Mexican American, you know, or a Chicano or whatever. So it's so nasty because they'll be like loving hip hop and saying the N-word with the A, and they will pretend like they're down, but behind closed doors, they're calling us monkeys. I teach at a college that's international, like people from all over the world go there. And so from what I've noticed from like Mexican students, they try to like negate my Latinidad. They'll be like, "Oh, tú no pareces Latina." I'll be like, "Sí parezco Latina. Si tú sabías que hay morenos en tu país, tú no me decías eso. You wouldn't tell me that." You know, I had like one ex that was like, he was blonde and he was from Boston. So he I mean, I guess he considered himself spicy white, but sometimes he would he'd be like, I would ask him sometimes, I'd be like, "So what's your heritage?" He'd be like, "Oh, I'm a mutt, I'm Italian, I'm Polish, blah, blah, blah."
Here we go.
And so he would sometimes every now and then say the N-word about his friends.
Ew.
Be like, "That N is blah, 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 blah. This N was trying to blah, 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 blah." And I would just listen. I would just observe. I wouldn't correct him because that's his programming. I don't talk to him anymore.
Moving on, I would like to talk about the negative experiences that biracial Black people face with their parents. ding. Drake is the mascot of biracial black people for this video since he is a biracial black man. Before I do that, I would like to read a quote from Akoda Thompson's article titled Fetishizing of the Black Mixed Child. She states, while the look of our population is steadily changing, the ethnic fears and unease still remain a featured part of our society. The unions we form should be based on mutual respect and understanding of distinct cultures rather than surface level tolerance. We must to be self-aware of the white ideals we continue to place on ourselves, others, and future children. I appreciate Thompson talking about how relationships, especially interracial relationships, should be based on mutual respect and understanding of different backgrounds. When I say backgrounds, I am referring to cultures and races. In case you did not notice, I've been using the word biracial black people because I've noticed on the web a lot of biracial black people prefer to be identified as biracial black or black biracial. And I'm going to respect that by doing that further on in this video and maybe in more of my videos in the future. YouTuber Quincy J made a valid point in his video titled, How Should Biracial Black People Identify?
The country that you live in. The effects of colorism contribute to the erasure of black people. And as I grow into my identity as a biracial man, as a black and white biracial man, I'm starting to realize that it's a sort of duty for biracial people who are mixed with black to keep talking about the effects of colorism and how we as biracial people are benefited from it and how it really can hurt monoracial black people. And in white spaces, it's really important for this conversation around race to include colorism and the effects of colorism as much as we talk about the effects of racism. When biracial people do not acknowledge the distinction between being biracial and being monoracial black, it gives white America the opportunity to prop them up on a pedestal and put them as the face of black people in the US. I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to understanding that the idea of race is changing and evolving and expanding, specifically here in the United States. And we have to listen to those who are most affected by racism. That would be monoracial black people. That would be...
Quincy's video is thought-provoking, but I had an issue with his not all black people are monoracial. That specific phrase, sentence, whatever pissed me off because we know what is a black person. We already know this. Can we not pretend that we don't know what is a black person? If you have 2 black parents and 3 to 4 black grandparents, you're black. I do not know why we're always having these debates on this specific topic. It makes logical sense. And when we use monoracial, we talk about someone who is technically one race. Because being 5, 10, 15, even maybe 20 to 25% of a different race or different parts of many races here and there doesn't mean shit. Like, you mostly one thing. If you're mostly one thing, that is what you are. If you are multiple things, that is what you are. If you are half and half, that is what you are. I don't understand why we always gotta debate these type of things. It doesn't make no fucking sense. Let's use common sense, guys. Common sense. And yeah, sure, there are going to be people who do not like the topic about race, where we live in a racist society. And we also need to remember that race is not only about race, it's also about culture. Because people within certain races made cultures within their race. Okay, done with the tangent. In this portion of the video, I'm going to be using biracial black celebrities and the author as examples of a negative dynamic with one or both parents in an interracial relationship. First is Alicia Keys. Alicia Keys is a famous R&B singer who happens to have a white mom and black dad. Her parents had a fling back in the days when Alicia was conceived. Her mother wasn't sure who was the father until she did the math to match who she slept with. Alicia's father wasn't in her life until she became bigger. This is very sad. Sure, numerous people have been conceived this way by flings or people not having protected sex, but it hits differently when you're doing it with someone just to do it. And I'm not trying to shame Alicia's mother nor father in a way, but I kind of am, because it shows how irresponsible both of them are. And it also shows the fact that they think that sex is a game, especially back in the day with all the things that was happening that I'm not going to talk about in this video, but you guys know what I'm talking about. And it also shows how tone deaf they can be too, because you both created a biracial child, a biracial black child, who now has to figure out what is going on with her identity, even though it seems like Alicia knew about her being half black, half white. And if you see some of her articles back then and as of now, she does identify as a multiracial woman, biracial woman, and a black woman. So I still think both of her parents are irresponsible, but she's here. Yay. Second person is Doja Cat. Doja Cat is a singer and rapper. She doesn't have an exact genre that she dominates in. Her mother is white and her father is black.
Let me check my chest, my breath right quick. He ain't never seen it in a dress like this.
Doja's father wasn't in her life and moved back to South Africa. The children grew up with only their mother. Now that Doja's successful, he wants to come back into her life. This doesn't make Doja Cat's father look good, and especially with Doja Cat's history of people accusing her of being anti-black and being very insecure, especially when it comes to her music. That's another discussion. People are going to be always going to pinpoint that her father wasn't in her life, so this may have played into her insecurities now as an adult. And while that may be true, we cannot blame Doja Cat's father all the way, because it's also the mother's fault too. The mother could have done more to raise her daughter. But of course, it definitely is the father, because he's the black parent. So he's supposed to be more in charge of her upbringing and what she knows about her blackness. The second person is Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz is a rock singer and actor. His mother was black and his father was white. His father's family was not accepted with his wedding with his mother. Once he was born, his father's family accepted his mother and him. His father was a serial cheater due to his black wife and biracial black son being more successful than him, according to Lenny. That ego, I swear, especially back then with these men, the ego is so strong that they do not see how this is going to affect their children. And this kind of affected Lenny in a way. Yeah, sure, he didn't cheat on his wife when he was married, but seeing his father be a serial cheater didn't affect him mentally. There were so many warning signs in my opinion, and I'm not trying to disrespect Lenny's mother, but she could have done more to prevent this from happening. Maybe, and I'm not saying cheating I'm not defending him cheating. What I'm saying is she could have done more to end up not being married to Lenny Kravitz's father, because it's clear this man, specifically this man's family, is not good. Well, they weren't good because they didn't accepted Lenny Kravitz's mother. They accepted her once Lenny was born. The fourth person is J. Cole. J. Cole is a rapper and athlete. His mother is white and his father is black.
Like them boys with the big old chains, ride around town in the big old range. I knew it when I rock big old chains.
Well, his father abandoned him, his older brother, and his mother when he was a baby. His mother ended up moving from Germany to North Carolina. There are fans saying that he reconciled with his father. A few sources also say that his father came back into his life after he became a big star, which I wouldn't be surprised. And I hope you all see a similar pattern. A lot of these biracial black celebrities' parents who abandoned them end up coming back into their lives once they have money, once they're rich, once they're successful as entertainers. We may not know exactly all the details about J. Cole's father and his mother's relationship with him. I feel like there were probably warning signs, but she wanted to be open-minded. Maybe she didn't want to be called a racist for thinking negatively about a black man in an interracial relationship, but sometimes you have to be straightforward with your partner or partners. You have to be straight up and tell them what's going on, what is happening. Now J. Cole exists. Yay. John Drake is a biracial black author who made a piece titled "What a Black Man Discovered When He Met the White Mother He Never Knew." He made a book, and I believe the title is similar to the statement of this article. When it comes to this part, I'm going to try to respect that he identifies as a black man. We all know my opinion on that, but his father wanted to pretend that his biracial black son is just a black man because the circumstances with racism and other things in between. When my father finally did visit my mom at her home, her dad assaulted him, called him the N-word, and had him arrested. Aunt Mary's claim that race had nothing to do with her absence from my life made no sense to me. I stopped calling her after that. I had no interest in any more meetings. I resented putting in so much effort to understand people who wanted nothing to do with me. You chose to be with this woman who is white, and her family were very racist, and it was very clear, but you didn't care, or maybe you thought love is love, or whatever other excuse. But I know this probably affected your child, and you never thought about that because you thought about yourself. And I believe John Blake's brother is from the same parents as well, because they look like identical twins. So I know they from the same parents. But you see, he didn't have one, but he had two biracial children, biracial black children, with this white woman whose parents were racist. People who interracially date, even as of today, know that these people that they interracially in a relationship with, either them or their family members, or even close friends, are racist, and they still stay with them, having mixed race children and building them in this toxic environment where they being challenged with their two identities that they have because their parents are two different things. You just have to be cautious Especially if you plan to think about having kids with people, you gotta be very cautious. Like, and this goes for all races of people, but we're specifically talking about interracial couples who have mixed race children, because that's what we're talking about right now. That's triple the work, in my opinion. But you chose to have mixed race children. Now you gotta do the work.
I think that may have a lot to do with our culture as it stands. We are oftentimes the most judgmental, even of our own. I think because of like the disconnect within our community, within the community sense, you know, like there's no more neighborhoods, there's only hoods. Like I've heard that saying before. I think because there is a disconnect within the Black community, within us socially, oftentimes when we're faced with people who look like us but don't really act like us, or act the way we would like categorize as it being an us thing,
Yeah.
and like brandish them off, or like they almost get like the side eye, you know, and they're like, yeah, we love you from a distance almost. I think that has a lot to do with it, you know, like if you know certain characteristics and mannerisms when you see a kid who maybe grew up in a prep school around white people, you know, they still are just as much Black as me, but because they don't speak the same way that I do, or like the stereotypical things that we would say categorizes as being us, like I said before, I think when that happens, they oftentimes get like categorized in the sense of being out of the bubble. So it's like, yeah, you Black, but not like our Black. You're a different Black. So
Yeah.
and then we're not often like, you know, like, nah, come in, like you still down with us. Like we feel me, you look just like me. We cool. I don't care where you grew up. I don't care how you talk. I don't care what shows you may not have watched, or what songs you may not know, or what you do listen to. Just to add on, I think that also like another thing that a lot of times, like this is something that does get talked about, is people who are biracial, and if they can, they oftentimes will, you know, take up for the white side and use the benefits of that while putting down the Black side. I mean, if you can use something that benefits you, use it. Like, you know, if me within my complexion, my culture, if I have a benefit that can be gained because of that, because of someone I may know who is like me, or whatever the case may be, because you never know what could happen. Yeah, utilize that benefit, but I don't put down anybody else or anything else. And with our culture, I don't take up, because I'm Caribbean American through heritage. I was born here, but a lot of my friends from the Caribbean. I don't put down my Caribbean side whenever the American side benefits me, and vice versa. I own both of it. And I think that oftentimes when people who are biracial, if they can, they'll lean. They don't take up for balance, in a balanced kind of state of mind and within action. And I think that's what also can cause problems.
Originally, I was going to talk about notable figures like Cindy Poitier, Henry Belafonte, Martin Luther King, and Pennell, who weaponized their power to lust over mostly non-Black women, or exclusively non-Black women. Allegedly. Even though there are sources out there. Just saying. Another thing I was planning to talk about is how Donna Summer and Diana Ross's families are wiping out the Blackness, but I think it's not necessary. Donna Summer's children are all biracial, and Diana Ross's children are mostly biracial too, so this shouldn't be a surprise. They are half white too, remember that. The reason why I am saying all of this is because using these public figures as examples throughout the video is going to lose momentum. I think I mentioned enough public figures in this video and part 1 of the series. We cannot compare day-to-day people with public figures all the time. Now that we got that out of the way, I want to talk a bit more about the Black community and preferences. Besides watching YouTube videos related to the manosphere and watching divestment content, I've done some reading with 2 of these articles, by the way. I'm going to put them in the description because I'm not going to talk too much about it. But they talk about both parts of the communities that are black driven and happen to be aware against the sexes, specifically black men and black women. And it can become toxic, of course. But I do want to acknowledge that originally the divestment community wasn't about interracial relationships. It was about black women having a soft life and not struggling, basically. Whereas the black manosphere has to do with supposedly the uplifting of black men, even though that is debunked to not be true. I get it. Certain people got certain messages from both groups, but there are always going to be toxic places within certain groups. In this case, the manosphere and the divestment community. There are people who look up to these 2 communities and they put all their hatred against certain people within the communities that they aiming to attack and be against of. And then there comes a time where you wonder, is it worth us separating as a group of people just because there are certain bad people from this side, there are certain bad people from that side? Why are we trying to be, I was going to say individuals, but we're not being individuals in a way, because there's are groups. These are groups of people within the community. But they don't think about how this may affect their children, because most likely, if they think this way, they're going to end up with mixed race children. And then these mixed race children are going to have identity issues, are going to dislike other black people, end up partnering with only non-black people. And then you're going to try to figure out, why is that the case? Why my children do not want to be with people that look just like me? But when it comes to these type of communities, it seems like they always think about themselves. They don't think about their future children. They don't think about their future families, because we gotta also think about, what does the other partner feel? What does the non-black partner feel about this? Like, are you okay with knowing that you may be in a relationship where there is like a hierarchy thing going on with the value of what you may provide for your partner, how you may play a factor of their self-hatred, because that's how it crumbles down to. It crumbles down to self-hatred.
Yes, but he has to be like educated, and I don't know if that only means college, but I prefer college educated man. If he's not college educated, he has to be more successful than me. Someone who's open-minded and who is not talking like crazy stuff about black people of other cultures. Someone who understands that there is not a monopoly on blackness, that there's no one way to be black. Like cultural awareness and geography and things like that. I'm a very like multicultural type of person. I love exploring other cultures. And he can't feel some type of way of me having exes that are not black. And I can't feel some type of way about him having white or non-black girlfriends, because I think differently. I think that like, you don't have to feel some type of way when it's coming from a good place. When you're dating someone outside your race and it's coming from a place of genuine admiration for the person's heart and soul and mind, and not just their outside, like, I respect that. It doesn't really matter. He could be a great African American man. He could be a great Jamaican man. He could be a great Nigerian man. He just has to be the type of black man that is not intimidated by a smart, educated, successful black woman. You know, a lot of black men don't like that. They don't like that because they feel like, I don't know why. Competition. That's what it is. And why? How am I going to get hated on by a man?
For real.
Oh, you know what, Julian? Maybe a part of me doesn't want to even try, because I'm going to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of Black men are not strengthened by a strong male father figure. A lot of them are missing father figures. And it's not like I'm discriminating on that point. I'm just saying, like, I'd rather have a man who had his father. Does that sound bad?
I mean, I do think we shouldn't judge. I mean, that's my opinion. I can't tell you what to do, but we shouldn't judge because we don't know everybody's background. We don't know.
Yeah, let me qualify that. Okay, let me qualify that. That sounded problematic. I have a similar story to yours. You know, not every, like, it's a rolling vicious cycle in the Black community, the fatherlessness. It's not fair for me to be like, I prefer a man who has a whole complete family unit, because first of all, that man could learn from his father's mistakes and not be the same as his father.
Mm-hmm.
That man could also frown upon like fatherlessness and want to be a better father to his children when he has children. So it's not fair for me to be like, oh, I prefer a man with this on the checklist and stuff like that. It's not fair. So I take that back, but I have a caution with it. It's a factor. It's a factor as to why he may do certain behaviors. It's a factor as to why things might be a certain way when in terms of like his ideas of what is a man, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna judge anybody on that. And maybe I should have phrased it differently, but
yeah, because sometimes, believe it or not, the mother is actually the proper representation of the one Black man or biracial Black man. Sometimes you cannot have a man around. Sometimes you cannot. You gotta build your own children up without a man. What were we talking about again?
Like fatherlessness. It's not fair for me to be like, I want a man who has a father. It's not fair because that man is not an extension of his family. Everyone is an individual, and I know that family matters, but it doesn't matter that much when it comes to like individuality. You are not your family, and you are not your family's trauma. You don't have to represent that, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll take back what I said. I was talking about like the baggage that Black men have. And a Black man might say that about Black women, that we have baggage too. So the reason why I date outside of my race is out of curiosity. It's curiosity, and yes, maybe I've been burned like maybe a couple times. Yes, I have been burned. Yeah, he has to not be hating on Black women. He has to be solid. He has to go to therapy. If he has if he has baggage and issues, like I have baggage and issues too. Like I don't have the perfect family, you know, and I don't have like the perfect dynamic with my father or my mother, you know. And so it's just like these are real things that we carry with us, and we have to be willing to work on them. If he's just willing to work on his baggage and just love me for who I am and not try to compete with me and not try to make me feel some type of way for being a smart, intelligent, successful Black woman, we'll be fine. We'll be fine.
There are people within the community hurting from bad experiences with Black people. I know that. But I do believe we shouldn't be excluding people within the community when it comes to dating, because it could come off as self-hating, depending of the circumstances, of course. And it can come off as your excuse or your way of distancing yourself from Blackness by just coupling with non-Black people. And I'm not saying that you have to not have a preference or preferences. What I'm saying is do not do it for racist intent, colorist intent, featureism intent, and so on. That's what I'm trying to say.
I would say first and foremost, make sure like individually within yourself, you have healthy baggage. It is always a thing where you come into something new with baggage. That's a norm. But just make sure that baggage isn't something that leaks or something that can be toxic. Try to heal from whatever endeavors or traumas, whether that be emotional or physical, within whatever's happened in your household and your upbringing, and also within your interactions with other people outside of your house, and romantically speaking as well. Is you should come into a relationship emotionally stable. And that doesn't mean you gotta be perfect, but you just, I think a lot of times we don't deal with whatever eats at us, and that can leak into our relationship with other people. When given dating another shot again, you should definitely try to come into it without bias, which could be dealt with when dealing with your traumas. You want to be able to come into it and be able to look at the person and just take on who they are and read them, and not let whatever is going on internally read them. And also just, don't be too hard on yourself. Be clear in what you desire and where your motives lie, and just stay true to that. Don't rush into anything.
I agree. Thank you. This is great advice. Thank you. But also, yeah, I agree because I feel like when it comes to within Black spaces, especially on the internet, because I've been seeing it. I've noticed that there are certain people from both sides of the communities of being Black talking about, oh, I don't want to date Black women because of this stupid reasons, or maybe sometimes it's okay, someone understand you, but also it's you sound stupid because you Black yourself. And then the other option is with Black women, some Black women being oh, I don't want to date Black men because X, Y, and Z as well. And usually the negatives, very negative stuff. And I get sometimes some people within the community is not perfect. I'm just gonna say how it is. Some people are not perfect, but it's like what you said. That's why sometimes you gotta give you some time before you jump into another relationship. Or if you know that you just want to do stupidities or do a thing, you gotta let the person know. Yeah. I still don't suggest it, but
get to know the person before things get physical, which also leads into what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know the person and you know yourself, and just give each other some grace. I think also within that, don't rush into the physical things. Physical things will be there. You should make sure that this is the person you can be physical with. And even then, I'm a man of faith, so you ain't supposed to be doing that till you get married, but it's understood how that can happen.
Yeah, of course.
If that's the vibe, that's your business, but be clear about that at least. Let the person know, let the intention be clear and precise, whether it be words. Well, let it be clear and precise in regards to your words and your actions. So I think that just get to know one another.
Yeah, I totally agree.
This series is supposed to focus on folks within the community dating amongst each other when it comes to preferences being involved. But I do have to remember that we gotta be real. There are going to be Black people, biracial Black people, who are going to be interracially dating. We have to acknowledge that in the series. And that is what I'm doing with this part of the video. The second thing I wanted to end on a note is that it is okay to be single. I am single right now. Do I want a partner? Of course I do. But am I feeling for one right now? Not really 50-50, because I'm not financially stable and I'm not ready to commit to a woman right now where I go and have to make sacrifices for my relationship, change how I spend, maybe building a family, getting married, and other things that fall within that. And that's not the space I am at as a 24-year-old living in the city, New York City specifically. I do believe there are certain people, especially in the Bronx, who are eager to be in a relationship so badly that they end up in certain circumstances where they regret it after. Damn, I could have waited. Damn, I could have take time to think about myself instead of just jumping into relationship to get a rebound, sleep with a bunch of people, try to find their person so that way they can have children before the time is ticking and stuff like that. I just think you have to be very cautious with who you want to build your family or families with. And sometimes you have to think about you mentally and financially before just having kids with people or being in a committed relationship. So choose your partners wisely. Thank you so much if you made this far in this video. I appreciate you. Be sure to like this video. Please comment, please share. I really appreciate it. And if you really like this video, subscribe and join the team. And I want to thank my amazing friends Parker and Victoria for participating in this video, taking their time to be in this video and helping me out try to talk about this tough, very, very tough topic within the Black community. And I do want to say, check out their work or follow them on their social media platforms. Yes, this is the series finale. Yeah, I know some of you guys are probably like, damn it, there could be a part 3. Well, the reason why I'm going to stop right now is because this topic is very complex, but also because I want to continue talking about anti-Blackness when it comes to certain celebrities, influencers, politicians, and so on. So I'm going to think about it and maybe keep you all posted on the community tab. Thank you, and
peace, mi gente.
Thank you. I really appreciate you, and good luck with everything, and peace, mi gente.
Peace, mi gente.